Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new episode of At the Buzzer Sports, where we talk all things basketball all the time. My name is John Drummond, and today we're going to be talking about the Detroit Pistons, who are 9-2 and currently at the top of the Eastern Conference. I am currently recording this video right after their win against the Washington Wizards, who were down for most of this game, and I had done my research the night before preparing to record this video today after the Wizards game because I was so sure they were going to beat the Wizards. No disrespect to Washington. They have a bunch of talent over there, but we kind of know what the Washington Wizards are doing this season. So I was just going to wait to record it right after the Wizards game, and we were just going to go off that. And then I look at the score, and I'm like, yo, these guys are losing. Like, what's going on? And before we move any further into the full team, I do want to talk about Cade Cunningham in his game against the Wizards, because I'm starting to notice that some people are starting to really overrate efficiency and what that can mean on a singular game structure. To the point where we're starting to push Cade Cunningham's triple-double to the side just because he took 43 shots. Now, I know that sounds crazy. 43 shots, 46 points on 43 shots. Yes, that's crazy. But I will say this, from what I've seen, because I've watched most of the game, it didn't look like Cade was taking bad shots. His shots just weren't falling. And when you're a volume scorer who has the ball as much as Cade Cunningham does, you are liable to having these type of nights. I mean, he shot 45 shots. He shot 31% from the field, 2 for 11 from 3. He got to the free throw line. He shot 18 free throws, and he was 16 of 18 from there. So I can understand it. There was multiple plays where he was putting his back to the basket, easy hook shots that were open. Those weren't falling. He had multiple open mid-range opportunities. Those weren't falling. As you can tell, 2 for 11 from 3. So the pull-up three-point shooters weren't falling as well. And with this hot start that the Detroit Pistons are having, I do think it should be talked about enough, because just 2 seasons ago, we were looking at Detroit as one of the worst teams in basketball. Cade Cunningham wasn't talked about as a top 10 point guard in basketball like he is today. And I think a lot of that improvement came at the end of that really bad season that they had in 2023-24, and we saw it carry over into the 2024-2025 season. And now that we see the pieces start to be put together on this Detroit roster, you look at some of the pieces they have with Ausar Thompson, who is the best, or if not one of the best, perimeter defenders in basketball. Jalen Duren, who I believe has gotten much better as a rim protector, and he was already really good as an offensive player. And then you add guys like Duncan Robinson, who can play in the DHO with Jalen Duren. He can make plays, and he's one of the best shooters in basketball. Jaden Ivey, who's missed all of this season and majority of last year, who they are also going to be getting back. And there has even been talks about Malik Beasley coming back to the roster as well. Isaiah Stewart is one of the better defenders in basketball as well. He brings a toughness to this Detroit Pistons team that doesn't get talked about enough. So I really want to talk about, one, the improvements that this Detroit Pistons team has made, how good can they be in a postseason setting, and what it could look like for a Detroit Pistons team in the future. So right now, we know the Detroit Pistons are the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They sit at 9-2, and they're also the 3rd best defense in basketball per NBA.com defensive rating. They are #2 in opponent field goal percentage at the rim, and they're also #2 in blocks per game. And I do have to acknowledge what Jalen Duren has become as a rim protector, a rebounder, and a better defender overall. He's been much better as a rim protector. He's been much better in his pick and roll coverages. And I think Jalen Duren brings something very interesting to this team just because of how good of a passer he is and how good he is in that short roll with Cade Cunningham. I think one of the most underrated 2-man games in basketball is what Jalen Duren provides in the short roll, also with what Cade Cunningham can do as a pull-up three-point shooter, scorer, and passer out of the pick and roll. There's been multiple possessions where Jalen Duren has been able to find cutters, throw lobs to Ausar, make kick-out passes to Duncan Robinson. I've even seen possessions where he's grabbing and going off the rebounds, like he did it against Memphis, he did it against Philly. That's a good thing to have. I don't know how much you want to do that, just because I think he would be much more valuable just running to the rim and allowing guys like Ausar Thompson and Cade Cunningham to be able to find him. But I definitely don't hate what I'm seeing as far as just improvement, internal improvement. And they've even had multiple games where their starters are Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren. That's a very physical, very strong, very athletic front court to where they're going to get offensive rebounds. they're going to protect the rim, and they're going to make you not want to go down there. Like, there's some things we don't like value as much when guys can just be extremely physical down in the basket, because towards the end of games, you're not gonna, when you're already beat up, you're tired, you're not gonna want to consistently go to the rim if you know, one, there's a really tough chance that you're gonna go there and make it. Like I said, second in opponent field goal percentage at the rim, second lowest in the entire NBA, on top of being as physical as a Isaiah Stewart is, or as a Jalen Duren is. Even a Ausar Thompson can be a really good rim protector at the position, and also having to beat him on the ball. And just being the play finisher, the rim runner, the lob catcher, the rebounder, that brings so much value to what the Detroit Pistons are trying to do, because when you have that level of rebounder and lob finisher that Jalen Duren is, he creates so much efficient offense. I mean, right now he's averaging 19 points and 12 rebounds per game. And again, the offensive rebound, he had a 22 and 22 game. That type of stuff is bringing so much value to what the Detroit Pistons are trying to do. And I also want to talk about Caris LeVert, because he has not been as impactful as I would think he would be for the Detroit Pistons. I mean, coming in this season, I would have expected him to be a ball handler off the bench, somebody that can score with the ball in their hand and create for others, which again, it's so early into the season that I'm not like extremely off the edge with Caris LeVert, because I do think he's going to be able to get back in rhythm and become what the Detroit Pistons need him to be, especially right now, because the Pistons are extremely reliant on what Cade can do with the ball in their hands, because they are missing Jaden Ivey. And I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns with this Pistons team in a playoff setting, because where are they going to get that extra ball handling when Cade isn't on the floor? Or let's say, for example, in the Knicks series, it was really hard for Cade to create at points against OG Anunoby, and it's going to be very interesting to see where they get that extra ball handling from, because we don't know what we're getting with Jaden Ivey. He's a really good ball handler, has a really good first step, but he has some of the same weaknesses that Cade Cunningham has, in my opinion, because last season, and again, he didn't play much last year, he shot 52% on layups, and the year before that, he shot 55%. Those are some of the same concerns I have with Cade Cunningham, just not being the level of finisher that you would want him to be, to have all of those on-ball reps. And I look at Cade for this a lot more, because Cade Cunningham is 6'6" to 6'8". He's one of the three, 6'6". I'm not gonna say the other one, I'm not gonna lie, but he could be 6'8" as well. And he is the lead initiator, lead ball handler, superstar type of scorer. And if you can get him to be a better finisher, now again, my eyes have shown me that he's gotten better as a finisher, this season, because last night when I was taking my notes, he was shooting 71% in the restricted area. This last game has brought those numbers down a lot. He's like mid 50s now. And I think that's why you see a lot more reps with Ausar as a ball handler, because I think the Pistons are aware of how much being reliant on Cade as a ball handler can take away from the full ceiling we could see with this Pistons team. Again, they have the talent like Jaden Ivey, Caris LeVert, maybe Ausar Thompson if he continues to improve as a ball handler this season, and Cade to be multiple different ball handlers. But I think we're starting to see with the level of on-ball pressure that we are getting from multiple different NBA teams, especially with OKC in the Western Conference and guys like Amen in the Western Conference and Stephon Castle in the San Antonio Spurs being able to put pressure on the ball, that you are going to need multiple different ball handlers who can make smart decisions. And you see Ausar Thompson pushing the pace and transition more. You see him creating in the half court more. I've seen him make a couple of really good skip passes, lay down passes, lob passes as well, to where I think he can be a guy that can make quick decisions. But do I trust him to really create offense in the half court as of right now? No. And that would probably be my biggest concern with this Pistons team. One, they are very reliant on Cade, and Cade can have very inefficient stretches, especially in the postseason or in the regular season. That would make me a little bit skeptical on how reliant they are on him to create for this offense consistently. Now, again, it is a 10-game sample size or an 11-game sample size with the Detroit Pistons. And again, from the eye test, it looks like he has gotten better as a finisher, even with his back to the basket, getting to the rim, having better pace when getting to the basket. Because last year, it seemed like he was a little bit like his first step wasn't as crazy for him to create great looks around the rim, but he has the strength and the size and frame to be a good finisher around the rim. And it looks like he's getting to the rim and he's creating better looks for himself. And I think we're going to really get a good picture of what it can be as the season goes along, because we're in a point right now in the NBA where if you've been shooting really bad for the first 8 to 10 games, that if you have a 2-game sample size of you shooting a lot better, your entire averages can change. So I'm going to check back in with him, I'm going to check back into his numbers maybe at the 30-game sample mark. But what I'm looking at shows me that he's gotten better as a finisher. And as for the defense, I think the defense is completely legit. Ron Holland is somebody I haven't even talked about. His athleticism in transition, his lob catching ability, and the pressure he's been able to put on the ball in his second season has been extremely valuable for what they're trying to do. And with the East being wide open right now, the Pistons can provide a tough matchup for a Cleveland team, for a Bucks team, for a Knicks team, for a Miami Heat team, to where I can see them going to like a Eastern Conference Finals run, because that is where I believe the Pistons are trying to get. Like, we've had the breakout season, we have our superstar, we have a really good team around him. Now it's time to get a playoff series win, maybe have a really tough out in the second round. And I think with Boston retooling and Indiana being at the bottom of the East, and we look at some of these teams in the Eastern Conference that have been disappointing. Orlando has been disappointing. Atlanta has been disappointing. Cleveland and New York are still figuring things out. They haven't had the dominant start that I thought they were going to have to start the season, especially Cleveland, to where there are some teams in the Eastern Conference that can really make a push this season. And I think the Detroit Pistons are one of those teams. And another one of the biggest conversations that are had around the Detroit Pistons is, do they need to get a second star? Like, do they need to bring in a Devin Booker or Lauri Markkanen into this team that can take on some of that scoring load so Cade doesn't have such high usage throughout his tenure with the Pistons? And I do definitely think that that is going to probably be a concern sooner or later. And I think the Pistons still are hoping that Jaden Ivey becomes that guy that can take some of the scoring load off of Cade Cunningham, because he does pick up a very heavy load, especially last season and for a majority of this season. I just don't know who that player would be. Like, I don't think Devin Booker is leaving Phoenix. I don't know what the Jazz want for Lauri Markkanen. It would definitely be really nice to see the Pistons get another star, but who are they going to give up? Because I don't think it's going to be a Sarr. I don't think it's going to be Jalen Duren. It would probably have to be like a Ron Holland and some picks that they can put together for a star on the move, because some of the stars that I look at that might be on the trade block, like Ja Morant, the Pistons don't need Ja Morant. All in all, I do think the Pistons are a really good basketball team, and I do think they're set up to have a really deep Eastern Conference Finals run, but only time will tell. I think Cade Cunningham is good enough to shoulder the load for this Pistons team to make a run in the Eastern Conference, but like I said, with the efficiency and how struggling, or how much he could struggle around the rim, and how hard it is for him to create easy offense, like that top tier easy offense that you would need to be like a top tier creator when you have this big of a load to carry throughout a postseason series, is still very concerning to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this type of content, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram at @thebuzzersports_. Make sure you guys follow me on TikTok at @thebuzzerent, and make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at ATBSports1. And with all that being said, I will see you guys next time. Peace.